Allies raced toward victory. The United States quietly introduced a new light tank to the battlefield, a machine designed to replace the aging M5 Stuart and redefine reconnaissance warfare. Its name was the M24 Chaffee. Sleek, agile, and surprisingly powerful for its class, the Chaffee represented a new generation of American armor, a balance of speed, mobility, and firepower that would serve across continents for decades to come. The story of the M24 begins in 1943, at a time when American tank designers faced a serious problem. The M5 Stuart, though fast and reliable, was hopelessly outgunned by German armor. Its 37mm cannon could barely scratch a Panzer IV, let alone a Tiger. Light tanks were supposed to scout, not fight, but in the chaos of World War II, scouts often found themselves face to face with the enemy. Something had to change. Enter the Ordnance Department and Cadillac Motor Division, the same company that built the Stuart. They were tasked with creating a new light tank, one that could hold its own in combat while retaining the agility that made the Stuart so effective as a reconnaissance vehicle. What they came up with was the T24 Prototype, a sleek, low-profile design armed with a brand new 75mm gun, the same weapon found on the early Shermans. The heart of the M24 was its main gun, the 75mm M6. It wasn't the biggest cannon on the battlefield, but for a light tank, it was revolutionary. The M24 could finally deliver a serious punch without sacrificing mobility. Its gun was stabilized for better accuracy on the move, and its turret was roomy enough for a three-man crew, commander, gunner, and loader, a luxury not all light tanks enjoyed. Power came from two Cadillac Series 440T24 V8 engines, each delivering around 110 horsepower. Together, they gave the Chaffee a top speed of 35 miles per hour, or about 56 kilometers per hour, fast enough to outmaneuver heavier tanks and zip across the battlefield. The transmission was smooth, the steering easy, and the suspension, a torsion bar system, made it one of the most comfortable tanks to drive at the time. The armor, however, was light, just 25mm at its thickest. That meant the M24 couldn't stand toe-to-toe with Panthers or Tigers. Its survival depended on agility and tactics. Crews learned to use terrain to their advantage, darting between cover, spotting for artillery, and striking softer targets like trucks, half-tracks, and enemy infantry. Production began in 1944, with Cadillac and Massey Harris, a Canadian company, working together to get the new tank into the field as quickly as possible. By late 1944, the first M24 Chafees began reaching Europe, assigned to reconnaissance units that had long struggled with outdated Stuarts. For the soldiers who received them, the M24 was a breath of fresh air. Its powerful gun gave them confidence, its smooth ride made long patrols bearable, and its low silhouette made it harder to spot and hit. But it arrived too late to make a major impact on World War II. Only a few hundred saw combat before Germany surrendered. One of the first American units to use the M24 in combat was the 740th Tank Battalion, which fought in the Battle of the Bulge in late 1944. The Chaffee proved its worth, slipping through forested terrain where larger tanks struggled. It wasn't designed to face Tigers head-on, but it could ambush, flank, and scout with deadly efficiency. When the war ended, the M24 found a new life in the post-war era. As the Cold War dawned, the Chaffee became the standard light tank for U.S. forces and many of their allies. It was exported to more than 25 countries, from France to Japan, and from Norway to South Korea. Then came Korea, a brutal test for all Allied equipment. When North Korean T-34 85th tanks stormed across the 38th parallel in 1950, the lightly armed M24 Chaffees were among the first American tanks to respond. It was a mismatch from the start. The Chaffee's 75mm gun struggled against the T-34's sloped armor, and its thin plating couldn't withstand hits from the Soviet 85mm gun. Many Chaffees were destroyed or captured in the first weeks of fighting. But despite being outgunned, the M24 still played a crucial role. It served as a reconnaissance and support tank, scouting enemy positions, relaying information, and engaging in hit-and-run attacks. Its lightweight made it ideal for Korea's mountainous terrain, and when used wisely, it could still be deadly. The Chaffee wasn't just an American tank. It served in French hands during the First Indochina War, where it saw action in Vietnam long before U.S. involvement there. French forces used M24s at Dien Bien Phu, where they were airlifted in piece by piece and reassembled to support the fortress's defense. Though the tanks fought valiantly, they couldn't turn the tide of the battle. The British also received a number of M24s under Lend-Lease, calling them the Chaffee, after General Adna R. Chaffee Jr., the father of U.S. Armored Forces. It was a fitting tribute. He had championed the idea of mechanized warfare years before the U.S. entered the Second World War. As newer tanks like the M41 Walker Bulldog emerged in the 1950s, the M24 began to fade from U.S. service. But around the world, it lived on for decades. Some countries, like Uruguay, Cambodia, and Laos, kept their Chafees operational well into the 1970s and even the 1980s. In some cases, they were upgraded with new engines, guns, or turrets to keep them relevant. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, the M24 proved its resilience. In Vietnam, both the French and later the South Vietnamese army operated them in rough, muddy conditions that would have bogged down heavier tanks. Its light footprint and good mobility made it one of the few armored vehicles that could operate effectively in those environments. Even though it was eventually replaced, the Chaffee's influence lived on. Its design philosophy, combining mobility, firepower, and crew comfort, shaped the future of light tank development. The M41 Walker Bulldog, and later the M551 Sheridan, both inherited key lessons from the Chaffee's success and shortcomings. Today, the M24 Chaffee is remembered as a symbol of transition, a bridge between the light, underpowered tanks of the early war and the balanced, capable designs that followed. It wasn't the most famous or powerful tank of its time, but it played its role with quiet efficiency and remarkable longevity. Many restored M24s can still be seen in museums and private collections around the world, their small frames belying the importance they once held. When you stand next to one, you can see the craftsmanship and the practical design choices, a blend of Cadillac engineering and battlefield necessity. The Chaffee was never meant to dominate in direct combat. It was built for intelligence, speed, and flexibility. It was a hunter, a scout, a survivor, and for those who crewed it, it was a machine they came to trust. From the forests of Europe to the mountains of Korea, from the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of the Middle East, the M24 Chaffee left its tracks across the world. Its story is one of adaptation and endurance, the kind of story that reminds us that even the smallest tanks can leave a massive legacy. And while the world moved on to heavier armor, guided missiles, and computerized fire control, the Chaffee remains a piece of history, a reminder of a time when speed and skill meant survival, and when a light tank could still punch far above its weight. The M24 Chaffee didn't just scout the front lines, it paved the way for generations of armored vehicles to come. Would you like me to write the cinematic image prompts for this M24 Chaffee script?